We looked at one type of weathering. We looked at mechanical weathering, the hammer, right? It smashes rocks and soil and breaks it up, and then it erodes it, it takes it away. Today, we're looking at chemical weathering. We use chemicals to break the rock or move the rock or separate the rock or the soil. Our bedrock is limestone, and limestone weathers with acid. And guess what? When it rains, the water is a little bit acidic. There's acid in our rain. And so when it goes into the ground, the rock disappears. It makes big holes and openings called caves. And then other minerals drip through and make those cool, those are called stalactites that hang from the ceiling. All right, so let's look at a couple of reactions that happen. I just mentioned rain, water. The fancy science word for a reaction, a change with water, is called hydrolysis. Next up, we've got oxidation. Well, you see the first part of the word is ox, O-X, and we know oxygen, right? If you mix water, rain, and oxygen, what we breathe, you get rust. You see this car? That's turning brown. It's got iron in it. So it's turning iron oxide, rust, brown. So it's changing. That's weathering. This apple, if you leave it on the counter all day, it turns brown. It's reacting with the air. That is weathering. It's not this kind of weathering. It's this kind. Here's another one, carbonic acid. It's in our pop. It's what makes the bubbles. Fizz, we call that. But in our air, carbon dioxide is what comes out when we exhale, when we breathe. We breathe in oxygen, and out carbon dioxide. When you mix carbon dioxide with rainwater, that's why our rain is slightly acidic. There's other kinds of acid. We burn coal. There's lots of sulfur in our coal. It keeps us warm. Cheap electricity. Now here's what happens in places that have a lot of pollution. A lot of fossil fuels, a lot of sulfur or nitrogen in the air. These were two statues that were carved at the same time. They put one in Egypt and one in New York. Egypt is very dry, in a latitude where they don't get much rain. And you can see that it still looks good today. You can see the pictures, understand what's on it. But in New York, they get all the pollution from Ohio and Pennsylvania, and that rains down in New York City, and it's got acid in it. And look what it did to the rock. It changed the rock. It took away some of the rock. Weathering and erosion. And it looks a lot different. That is chemical weathering. Now what we're going to look at tomorrow is why some rocks weather fast and some rocks weather slow. And one of the reasons is how much moisture there is. That's part of climate. How hot it is, how cool it is. That changes how fast the weathering happens.